And we're live, I think. Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, and welcome to the I Love Jeet Kune Do. Did I do that? I really did do that. The Jeet Kune Do Dialogues, episode number 100. Yay! This is a hallmark, a landmark episode for us. We've been at this now for a little bit over a year. So congrats to all of you who've been dialogue partners in the past, and I look forward to working with a whole bunch of other people in the future as we continue to promote this program. So my dialogue partner today will be none other than Burton Richardson. I don't know if he needs any introduction to any of you out there. So we'll give him a few minutes. I started early because we're trying to work on a little bit of a different platform. So I decided to start about 3 minutes early and see how things go, and we'll see what happens from there. So as you guys are logging in, if you'd be kind enough to say where you're logging in from, and hit the like button, and feel free to continue doing so throughout the dialogue.
One. You see me? No.
It was my fault.
Oh, but it's on.
I had to go further to my right to get you on there. Well, but here's the thing, right? I don't know if anybody is actually on Facebook watching us. I don't think anybody has signed on. So we'll have fun by ourselves until they catch up with us, right? So listen, let me see if I can do this, right? Because it's fairly exciting. Tell me how you feel when you hear this.
That is salip. Salip?
That is salip, yeah.
That, man, that just, my blood starts moving, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's funny. Sometimes I play that in the car, and my daughter's like, "Oh God, why are you putting that music off?"
Right. Yeah. So, all right. Well, listen. So, thanks for doing this, episode 100. I should speak formally about you some more because, you know, I tried. Okay, so full disclosure, I tried to get Sifu Dan on for episode 100, and as you know, that is sometimes difficult for some people to do. And then, as you know, Cass Magda has been, you know, very influential. So I tried to get him. That was difficult to do. But you are among the top. You're number 3 in terms of Jeet Kune Do influences on me over the past 30-something years. So, you know, I mean, I don't want you to think that you're like third best or whatever.
I'm happy to be here. No, I'm honored.
Right. Okay, so for those of you who may have joined us by now, I'm not sure if anybody has, Bert, to be honest.
No problem.
But yeah, so maybe that part of the platform isn't working as well as it should. But let me just say to everybody that one of the things that I admire most about Burt Richardson, and we've talked about this before, is that whenever I would see you, you always appeared to be, as I call it, well practiced. You know, right? But here's the thing. In one of our recent off-camera conversations, you asked me something. It probably didn't even register with you. But what it revealed to me is that there is a constantly working brain going on behind the scenes in your head.
Oh, it's nonstop.
Right.
It's nonstop. It's
right. Okay. So for those of let's fill in the public on what we decided to do. So we're calling this a counter for counter call because I had this crazy idea that we would go back and forth. And so instead of doing an abecedario call where I feed you all the time.
Nice.
Right?
Nice. We're gonna sombrada a little bit.
Yeah. So we'll do
Maybe a little free flow sparring too.
Man, I have no idea where I get these ideas from.
But see, that's the thing that's always going in the back of the mind, right? No matter
Yeah,
what comes up, you're at
yeah,
dinners,
yeah.
somebody hands you a
So,
fork, and you're like, "Well, this is very sharp. I could poke somebody with this."
yep,
It's just
yep. So my line of questioning will attempt to plumb the great depths of the intellect of Burton Richardson.
you're not going to have to go too far.
Right? But here's what it means, right? Okay, so let me try to do some of the cool stuff with this platform. Let me see if I could do it, because sometimes it cooperates and sometimes it doesn't. I want to show you something, but it's not. Yeah, see, now it's not cooperating with me. So yeah, that's too bad. Wait, maybe. Nah, maybe not. So all right. So here's what it was. It was the cover of one of your Jeet Kune Do concepts videos, right?
Okay.
And it was the one with the hair.
Hair.
Right?
Yes. Yes. The hair.
You know, so I wanted to show you that, but the software is not cooperating with me, so I can't do that. But
No problem.
you are going to have to take your mind backwards in time, all right?
Okay.
During this talk. So I went through the text on your 3 Jeet Kune Do concepts videos, your 6 defining Jeet Kune Do videos, and then let's see if I can do this one. Let's see, no, not that. Let's see if I can actually pull this up, right? I'm gonna try one of the tactics that's available to us here in this thing and show you something. Let's see if I can bring it up on the screen. It might work. Okay, you see that?
What is that?
That's the Word document, right? That's the Word document that I did in preparation for this dialogue today.
Wow. That's impressive.
It's 4 pages, right? I went through the text of all your unique publications videos. So that's 9 videos.
Jeez.
And then I went through the text of everything available at JKD Unlimited.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
That's a lot.
Now here's why. Yeah, but see, but here's the thing. So I wouldn't say that it's not that they seem to have been written by a completely different person, but they're definitely not saying the same thing.
No, very different.
Right?
Very
You
yes.
see what I'm saying? Right?
Very
now, here's what's funny. Here's what's funny. The word fun does not appear in the early 9 tapes, but it appears in almost everything on the Jeet Kune Do. Why is that?
Okay, that is a wonderful question. As I got older, I had such motivation to train, and I was highly motivated. I trained and trained. Like you said, that's probably, I would say, the biggest compliment you could give. You said I always look well practiced, because to me, you know, everybody has a certain level of talent to begin with, but it's all about how much practice do you put in, like really diligent, mindful practice do you put in.
Yeah.
And that's what we all have charge of. You know, we get to determine how much. And my whole thing, I just wanted to practice as much as I possibly could to maximize the time. So thank you for that. But you know, in the beginning, it was just training and training and training, and I was having fun doing it. Remember, we'd get together and all, we'd have a great time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until later that I realized what an important element that is in our training. Because if you're not having fun, and I learned this a lot through training competitors, like top level UFC fighters and all, it's just such a grind. If you want to be at the very top, you just grind it out. You're going in there day after day after day, cutting weight, working so hard, and it's just tough. And a lot of the guys, when they finish, their career, they don't want to train anymore. It was just too hard. But I realized, you know, if you have fun with it, then people are going to train longer and they're going to have a much better time.
Okay.
And if you train longer, guess what? You train longer, you train more often, you get better faster.
Right.
So the key, I think that's the easiest way to motivate somebody for anything is like, well, let's see, how can we make this fun? Instead
Right.
of just going, okay, I got to do this thing and use willpower. It's like, why? How can I make it fun so I take some of that willpower out of it? That's what I would say.
Okay.
Now,
But the funny thing, I'm sorry,
yes,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you a question about that.
Oh, okay.
How you like that?
Yeah.
First of all, I didn't actually say it, but congratulations, 100.
Yeah, man.
100
Thank you.
shows.
Yes.
See what? And see, Dwight's such a great example. You do one, and then you do another, and
Right.
you just keep at it. And I'm sure it was difficult, and you had all kinds of obstacles, and you know, you just keep doing it. And there were
Yep.
times you're like, oh man, I'm really not. This isn't exactly what I want to do today, but you did it anyway. Now you're at 100. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
So I want to ask you, what motivated you to train so well? Because for you to get to the level, and I got to, you know, see you periodically, and we would, you know, it was obvious you continued to get better and better and better. I was hoping I was getting better and better and better, but that takes a lot of dedication to training.
Yeah.
What was it that motivated you to train more than most other people would train?
I wish I had a really good reason. I think this will sound kind of hokey, but this is what I was born to do.
That's
You know,
beautiful.
this is what I was
beautiful.
born. Yeah, and it's when you have an OCD brain like mine.
I'm with you.
Jeet Kune Do and Kali are the perfect vehicles for helping you to maintain sanity.
That's
right?
a really good point.
You know, so many years ago, for example, while I was still living in Barbados, there were people who would tell me that they could set their clocks by my road activity. They would see me out running every day at the exact same time. You know,
there you go.
I think it's just my nature, right? And fortunately for me, I fell into something offered by somebody like Dan Inosanto. You know?
Yeah.
So I mean, it just fit me perfectly. I'll give you an example. You know, the first time Cass did Floretti, right?
Yeah.
I looked at it and I went, "Oh, you mean like this?"
Oh. Really?
Yeah. Right. So
really?
it's not that I was good immediately, but everything made sense. Right. So the first time I saw Sombrada, I wrote out the pattern and then I put a note in the sidelines, commit to memory.
Oh.
Because I realized that this was not something that you had to check before you did it again. You had to carry it in here. So it was just like a natural manifestation of what was going on in my brain.
And I must say, for those who have not seen it, if you watch Cass do a Florete, I mean, we're talking a beautiful, spectacular Florete.
Yeah.
For you to go, oh, like this? I mean, that's amazing.
That's really amazing. It was, yeah. I mean, when he and Sifu Dan, you know, when I first saw him do double stick, so I'd never seen anything like that before. But I immediately said to myself, that's what I want to look like. I want to move like that. You know?
That's a great role model. Great role model.
Yeah. So listen, are all the programs available at JKD Unlimited? Are they all courses in which a person can become certified, or are some of them just training material?
You know, most of them, not all, but almost all of them are certification courses. And the reason I did that is because Guru Dan tells a story, and I don't know if he's told it in the last 20 years or something, but you probably heard it. he was just talking about how he was training fighters, and then there was an older gentleman that said to him one day, he said, you know, if you train fighters, they're gonna, when they're done fighting, they're just gonna go away and you have nothing. You should train teachers.
Ah,
And I'm like, oh right. And so that resonated with me at the time, but later as I got older, like, oh, you know, I want to, if we want to carry the arts along, if we want them
right.
to perpetuate them, we
Yeah.
need people to teach them at a high level.
Yeah.
And the beauty of video, as you and I know, is we can go back and look over and over and find the minute details, things that we thought we knew, or we're like, okay, I know how to do this. You go back to the video and like, oh gosh, I don't even remember the
Hmm.
instructor saying that.
Right.
Let me make sure I'm doing that as well.
Yep.
So yeah, using the video is really good. So most of them are instruct, but you don't have to. This confuses people. I guess it's my fault for the way we put it up. You don't have to do the certification course. You can buy it and just use it informationally if you prefer.
Yeah.
But it's set up to go step by step. And the main thing with my courses is that they're sparring based. What you do is you go through it and then you log rounds
Right.
of sparring so to make sure they can actually apply it.
Which is completely different from, okay, so let me see. So I'm gonna try to do it again. Let me
Okay.
see. Hang
Oh,
on.
whoa, you did it.
Look!
Whoa. Correct. Man, look at that.
Right?
Look at that. That
Yeah.
was time. Whew.
Yeah. So I mean,
Well done.
is it safe to say that back then you were I mean, it's a disgusting term, but is it safe to say back then you were a technique whore?
That's what I was. I was all about technique, and trying to make sure it looked really good.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so what do? You choose somebody that's a really good feeder to make you look good. And those guys that are kind of clunky or not as coordinated and all, you don't
Right.
have them feed you because they make you look bad. But
Mhm.
that's where I made my shift personally. And it's so, man, I gotta tell you, Guru Dan, right? So wonderful. Most of the time, if you have an instructor, especially a luminary, an icon like Guru Dan, if you have a student that wants to do it a certain sort of a different way, their own kind of take on it, the
Yeah.
instructor usually doesn't like that. It's like, hey, what are you doing there? But Guru Dan is the one that just encourages you, said, no, that you have to do that. That's your interest. You need to go do that. That'll be
Mhm.
better for you, and it'll be better for everyone in the long term. Whether I had gone into functional fighting like I
Right.
did, or if I had said, you Guru Dan, I just want to do the dance. That's all I want to do. He would have said, great, go just do
Yeah.
the dance. And those other people want to do the dance, they're going to have another resource for it.
Yeah.
That's we know he's
You
just
know,
amazing.
I think that's something about Dan Inosanto that a lot of people don't understand. Is that he is like 100% supportive of us in whatever direction it is we want to go. He never
Right.
imposes like his will on you.
Yes. He wants you to realize yourself,
right.
where generally an instructor wants you to get on board, get on
Right.
the system and do the thing. So
Right.
for example, what I do, like for example, people become instructors with me. The certificate actually says that I want them to change things and do it their way. And then I
Mhm.
want them to improve the approach,
Mhm.
take it beyond what I've given you. And that's all
Mhm.
from Guru Dan, right?
Yeah.
That's just the idea, right?
Yeah.
It's a very generous research and development idea to take it your own direction.
I think though that's where not that he gets himself in trouble, but that's where trouble finds him, because a lot of people don't know how to interpret what he does and who he is.
Yeah.
And so they think, well, if he's showing Cambodian kickboxing and he's known as Bruce Lee's protege, what the heck is he doing?
Right. Why is he doing that? That's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, that has nothing to do with JKD and all. It's because he is showing things. He's such a good instructor. Basically, he says, here, I have all of this to offer so that you can decide what fits best for you, right? Not what's best for him as an instructor. I'm sure if he was just going to, I'm just going to teach exactly what I'm most interested in right now, he wouldn't be showing all the things he does. I'm sure of that. But he is so generous. He's like, here, I want to give you everything you have, give you every color of the rainbow and the in between and palette so that you can paint your own picture. You can
Right.
go the direction you want.
Right.
So that's, yeah.
Yeah.
It can be difficult for people to understand because,
For
you know,
sure.
the way we're taught in school is it's either right or it's wrong, right? So this or
Mhm.
it's that. But, you know, it depends on the individual.
So yeah. So now, okay. I want you to do me a favor though.
Yes.
Explain the differences, right? Now oh wait, you know, I have to tell you something.
Yes.
I always mess it up. It's Perry William Kelly, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. I don't know why I don't know why he has those names, right? But
Very.
he sends his regards and he
Right.
says, he asked me to let you know that your fight against your health issues is an inspiration to martial artists and people everywhere.
Oh, that's nice of him. But you know, it just so happened. Obviously, it would have been kind of heroic if I said, "Let me take this on and show everybody." But it wasn't my choice. I
Yeah.
had no choice in the matter. But the point, yeah, I had this thing, ulcerative colitis. Some of you may have heard of it. Some of you may have it, or know people that have it.
Yeah.
And it came on. It started showing itself when I was in college, and it was bad. Okay, so to compress the whole thing, I changed my diet radically. I did all these things, and it really prolonged the inevitable for me, which was eventually having my entire large intestine taken out and thrown away.
Wow.
And yeah, the recovery is really rough, man. It is hard for. I mean, I was in the hospital alone for 12 days, and you know when you're in the hospital or something, you're sick. You're like, okay, I'll just turn on the TV or listen to some music. I could not even watch TV. It
Right.
was so it was so hard. But anyway,
Yeah.
the whole thing was, if it weren't for my martial arts training, I don't know how I would have handled that.
Right.
I would just been 5 times more miserable. But because of our, you know, first going through the grind and suffering and all through our training, and then just have that mindset of, you know what, I'm in a bad position. I'm going to be thankful for what I have, and I'm going to look for my way out. I'm going to
Mhm.
just keep working till I get out. Keep working
Yeah.
till I get out. And yeah, that it just happened. It turned out that the martial arts training really helped with my mentality. And I'm not bragging here or being like, oh, look how great I am. But I'll just tell you honestly, the best compliment I had about the whole thing is Sarah, my wife, was talking to someone, and it was a year and a half of real misery. I mean, like a real misery, sleeping on the floor in the bathroom because I could only sleep for about 40 minutes before I would have to go use the bathroom, and that would take like 20, 25 minutes. And then, I mean, and it was painful, the whole thing, a year and a half of that. But the big compliment was Sarah was talking to someone, said, and you know, he never complained once.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
attribute that to my martial arts training of
Yeah.
that, you know, we're martial artists. We just got to keep going.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
dealt what we're dealt with and just go from there, look for the positive. And then, man, now I can train. I can do everything. It's really
Yeah.
something.
You know, I have never been sick for 12 days.
I'm so glad. Yeah. Try, what is it? 18 months. Whew, man,
yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
fun. I'm
Yeah.
so glad. But I have a question back at you now, since we were
Okay.
doing a little sombrata thing.
Okay.
So I asked you, you know, why the martial arts.
Yeah.
I and that was a beautiful answer, that that's just who you are. Because man, when you find who you are and you just do what you are meant to do, oh man,
Right.
life is good, right? There's always
Yeah.
obstacles, but
Yeah.
was there any moment or something, an incident that happened in your life that made you go, man, I need to learn martial arts, or it made it very interesting? I'm just wondering if that, or is just it was in you all the time.
Yeah. Well, so, you know, growing up in Barbados as a kid, the main export of one British colony to another British colony. So we got kung fu movies right out of Hong Kong,
Oh,
different movies a week, you know, and I just absorbed all of them.
I see.
And that led to hunting down whatever martial art books were available. So, you know, the Bruce Tegner karate books and,
Oh, yeah.
and all that. And then, as people have heard me say before, in 1970 or 71, Big Boss hits.
Mm.
And you sit up and you go, this is not Wang Yu. This is not Chen Sing. What is this?
Yeah.
And you're sold for the rest of your life.
For sure.
You know, because along the way, like you just said, here's what I discovered. Jeet Kune Do is, yes, Jeet Kune Do is something that you do and learn and practice, but ultimately, Jeet Kune Do is something you become.
Yeah, that is the truth.
You know?
See, and if you don't really go deep into it, you never understand that. But
right.
Yeah, that's right.
And not to be elitist or what have you, but I really do think that's what separates us from other martial artists. Because I don't know that somebody can be, as popular as it is, I don't know that somebody can become Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Mm.
But Jeet Kune Do is that, because Jeet Kune Do has that built-in spiritual and philosophical aspects. You know, it's right there in everything that Bruce Lee put into it. Not that you cannot have spirituality and philosophy in BJJ, but I think they'd be bringing it in from an external source. Yeah. I think that spirituality and philosophy were woven into the structure and the core of Jeet Kune Do from day one, from minute one.
Yeah, you know, that's a really good point, because in my for me, my jiu-jitsu training, it is very much at this point, it's so JKD. It's just me and my students. I have many students who have progressed really well, you know, black belts like Scott Ishihara out there, and I've bunched Shelton and Junior Cruz in New York, and we have a lot. Steve Rodness. Anyway, we have a bunch of, not to mention Cindy and Sarah and Sean. We also have Jim out in Missouri. But the point being that when they get to that level, there's definitely, it's an all-encompassing holistic thing, but it may be because of all the JKD influence,
right?
Right?
Yeah.
Because usually jiu-jitsu was made to fight. It wasn't, there was not a spiritual thing. More and more that you see a little bit of, you know, morals put in, but it was just rough and tumble, try to take somebody out, and now it's all about winning a tournament.
Right.
But yeah, that's a really good point, because I mean, Bruce Lee's whole thing was about developing the individual beyond fighting. That's one of the main things.
See, but that's the thing. But see, I think that as a human being on the planet, it's the natural first area of development can be physical.
Mm.
So it makes sense that a lot of people would be attracted to the physicality of martial art, or the physicality of any athletic endeavor, let's call it.
Right.
But then when you stick to it for a little bit, you realize that it's not the body that pushes itself. It's the mind that pushes the body. And then when you push past another point, you discover it's the emotions that govern the mind that govern the body.
That's right. It's all about controlling your emotions. And when something, quote, bad happens to you, like that whole sickness things, I had a choice.
Yes.
I get to decide what my emotion is. Am I going to feel sorry for myself?
Yes.
Or I'm going to be thankful that that operation is even available, because, you know, 70 years ago, I would just be dead. It's just, okay, you got a couple years and that's it. But now there's this radical thing where they take out your 6 pounds of large intestine, and they take some of the small intestine and they make it into a little pouch thing and all. And boom, there you go. So are we go? It's always like that, but that's emotional, and it's mental, to make that choice to look for the positive thing, you know. And that's through JKD is where I
Right.
Mainly
And
with that.
so what I teach my people, even the students, and then even the people that I'm teaching how to teach, is that when you have physical, emotional, and mental training and development occurring simultaneously, that leads to spiritual development.
Mm,
Because those are the four bodies:
mm,
physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual.
yes.
So take care of the first three, and I think number four is kind of automatic. You
Yeah,
see what I'm
just
saying?
comes along. I understand exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I have something else to show you.
Okay, let's see it.
Let's see if we can
Hey,
get there. Look at that.
there's a big hunky looking dude. Who's that? Gee whiz. That's like 200 pounds of something there.
Now, that is outside where?
That was the Hermosa Beach School.
Okay.
And that photo happened to be taken by a German visitor who was, he did some writing for a magazine also, I believe, and he took some photos as well.
Okay.
It just so happened that was at the height of when I was training with bodybuilding legend Mike Menser. And I would go and train, he'd train me every week or so, like almost every week. There were long intervals between sessions. So like every 5, 6, 7, sometimes 8 days we'd train.
Right.
It was not the usual go 3 times a week. And I've been vegan for many years already at this point, like maybe 8 years or so, and totally vegan. I've never ever, when I was like that, I remember there were actually, you know how there are always certain people that are going to have the gossip and all that sort of thing and make rumors. So the rumor was, oh, he's on steroids and all that
Right.
sort of stuff. But you know, I've never. This is me. Okay, everybody
Yeah.
else can do what they want. Never smoked a cigarette. Never had to drink alcohol. Nothing. Zero. No. Never steroid or anything like that. And yeah, you can build some serious muscle with on a vegan diet. And
But
so there you go.
but there's a whole controversy now about that Game Changers um, documentary. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about on Netflix?
Yes, and I haven't watched it yet, but
Okay.
I hear there's a lot of
Well,
there's
I
some
mean,
controversy there.
yeah, I mean, essentially, there are some NFL players on there swearing by the vegan diet, and then there are people who are saying there's no science. There's no science behind that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You know, the science I know of for sure is in World War II, I think it was. They were tracking in Northern Europe. They were tracking heart disease and all. And as meat became more scarce, heart
Mm-hmm.
disease went down on the exact same curve. And when meat started becoming more available, heart disease went back up. So and then also as far as endurance goes, definitely there's no doubt have better endurance if you're on a vegan or a plant-based diet. That's just, I've experienced it myself, and there are studies on that. But as far as the overall, there are a lot of studies that show if you're vegetarian and eat fish, that's going to give you the greatest longevity. That's what I've seen for years and years and years. But yeah, I know anytime anybody makes a documentary, that it's going to be skewed. Right? It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Especially if they have things to sell, right?
Okay, let's talk some more JKDU courses. So,
okay, can I ask you a question? You've been asking me questions. I need to ask you a question. Okay. You got to throw something back out here. So let's talk about hair.
All right.
Yes, exactly. So
yeah.
Tell me the history of the dreads.
So, when I got deep into JKD, I was still working in the corporate arena. And so I always promised myself that the day that I didn't have to, I would grow my hair. Okay. Right. And so the corporate thing went away in 91. It took me a few years, but then I just made, because
you were at the airlines, right?
Huh?
You were at the airlines?
Yeah, yeah.
What was it? Eastern or?
Eastern, exactly. Yeah. One of the things that being a Jeet Kune Do practitioner and a Bruce Lee follower, one of the things that it brought out in my personality is the radicalism.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, I was raised Church of England when I was 13.
Really?
Yeah, when I was 13, based on stuff that I started reading, I went to my parents and I go, I'm not going to church anymore. And they were like, why not? And I said, okay, well, so here's what I just read. The Epic of Gilgamesh, and it has its own flood legend. And then I read Parallel Myth, and they all have, every culture has a flood legend. I go, and the Bible doesn't talk about the other cultures. So I don't think the Bible has all the answers. And they said, okay. So they let me quit.
Wow.
Because I had a reason. Now, it might not have been the most intelligent reason, but at least I had one.
But you went for it. You didn't
right.
say right here. That's beautiful.
Yeah. You know, so the hair became, even though now this is not a statement of radicalism at all.
Yeah.
But if anybody studies the history of dreadlocks, there were people in Jamaica. Now, this never happened to us in Barbados. And I mean, I didn't locks up in Barbados anyhow. But in the early days of Rasta in Jamaica, you would be imprisoned just for wearing dreadlocks.
See? Wow. So unbelievable, right? The things people do and they glom onto, like that, if you do that, you're out of here. It's just so ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, I don't I don't think anybody has ever heard me say, oh, look at me, I'm a black guy, right? Because it's obvious.
And it really doesn't matter.
You know, but it is kind of a quiet statement that you should never judge people simply based on the way they look. You know?
And it's exactly. And there's one of my good friends. I trained him for years in CLOT, private lessons. He lived in forget the name of it now, but this one area of Los Angeles. It's akin to Beverly Hills, but giant mansions. Was it Nat King Cole's daughter owned the house that they bought? They bought it from her, right? It was Nat King Cole's house,
right?
And then the daughters sold it to these people. So he was the son, great guy. He was in his 30s, and he decided to get dreadlocks, to grow out dreadlocks, right? And his mom, right, was just like, what are you doing? She was very, very, very upset, right? And they're African-American family, right? And she was very upset at this. And his answer, well, he'd just look at her and go, Mom, it's just a hairstyle. And she would just drive her crazy because she was one that everything had to be just so, it was all about the neighbors, impressing the neighbors. And he's like, I'm doing what I want. So he's
not 100% incorrect, right? Because, there is, you can distinguish and differentiate between Rasta and dreadlock. Because not every dreadlock is a Rasta, and not every Rasta wears dreadlocks.
Yeah. Okay.
You see, so you can. So and then well, look, Bob Marley is so cool. He became a cultural icon. So yeah, it is just a hairstyle for some people.
Right. Yeah. Some people just copy Bob. And
but I think that if you are going to adopt the hairstyle, you should have some kind of an inkling of the history of it.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, because he really knew the history. I mean, he knew the history inside and out.
Yeah.
But even though he would say to his mom, it's just the hairstyle, because this is where the JKD comes right in there, is that it's like, hey, I'm going to express myself the way that I've decided to express myself, and break out of this, this is right, that's wrong, don't look like that, worry about what the neighbors think. Can you imagine if Bruce Lee thought for a moment about, what are people going to say about me when I come out and I say this and that? We wouldn't have JKD. The whole thing was, he's just like, hey, this is the way it is, that's all it is. We're having a little thunderstorm here all of a sudden, but
okay. I think it was when I was reading Bay Logan's book that was the first time it dawned on me that Bruce Lee got married in 1964 to a
Right.
white lady,
That's right. How
right?
was that? Can you
And
imagine?
it didn't, that, you know, that aspect never really hit me,
Yeah, because
you
we
know?
grew up at a time when it's like, well,
Yeah,
all right, but yeah, you know,
yeah.
64?
And now, and Sifu Asano as well, right? Sue
Right?
is not Filipino American, is she?
No, no, no,
No, right?
not at all.
Yeah. And I go, oh my gosh, that's something that the two of them have in common, which probably struck a chord and made a difference in their relationship, you know?
Oh, I never thought of that. Huh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that had to be a bonding point. Like, look,
Yeah.
they're just going for truth. You know, hey, I happen to love that person there, and it has nothing to do with anything else. You know,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
but yeah, other people will have a problem with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Amazing.
mean, there's I don't think it's a famous picture, but there is a picture of like the Lee and Inosano family picnic. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
I don't think
I'll
I've seen
see.
that.
If I felt more practiced with this technology, I'd find it on my laptop right now and put it up.
Oh wow, it'll come. It'll come.
Yeah, yeah. Right. If this thing continues to work, we'll be able to do stuff like that. But okay, so now I want you to explain to everybody the
Yeah.
differences, right, between Silat for the street. It says it's brutal Silat techniques with high level MMA.
Yes.
BJJ for the street says functional gun and knife along with eye and groin defenses, right? And MMA for the street says street efficient JKD techniques and tactics with the combat sport of MMA.
Yes. So
So,
that's, it basically is this. If you take uh, MMA, you take BJJ, you take any combat sport, Muay Thai, right? They're actually trying it against a skillful resisting opponent day after day after day after day after day. So guess what? All you care about, for example, when I'm training a UFC fighter, at no point do I go in and say, hey, let me just show you some stuff for the fun of it. This is kind of cool. Or, wow, this is something that so-and-so taught way back when. No,
right,
we're like, somebody's going to try to elbow him and break his eye socket,
right,
right? We're dealing with some very serious stuff here. So it's all about, let's make sure everything works, and we're going to try to take it another step higher to overcome what those people are, what the opponent's going to bring. So
right,
then when you take that method, that kind of world of that kind of sparring where you have good hands, very good kicks, you have clinch, you have takedowns, you have striking in the clinch, you have cage work, and the whole thing. It's like, okay, now let's add some other elements in from outside, such as knives and pistols and eye gouges and groin strikes and throat grabs and multiple opponents. And now, how's that going to change everything? Well, because what happens, and what's interesting is even in jiu-jitsu, for example, I'm going to talk about jiu-jitsu for a second. In Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it's all premised off of you learn some techniques and then you roll and
right,
you spar to try to apply those techniques, right? Like
right,
anything, like sabat or whatever. Okay. Uh, the reason people get good is because of all the sparring time, right? They can drill the techniques all they want, but there's no timing involved. There's no distance, feeling the pressure and all. You have to have massive hours of sparring time to actually be able to apply it. Okay, now jiu-jitsu go, okay, now we're going to show you the self-defense portion, knife, whatever. No sparring, no resistance. The guy goes, whoop, holds his arm out there with the knife, waits for you to block, grab it, put your other arm around, lock
mhm,
him, take him down. It's just, Bruce Lee's dissecting a statue idea again, just, holding the arm out. So my point of view is like, well, let's take MMA, let's take BJJ and just weaponize it. Let's JKDize those things. And
right,
then for Silat, because Silat is so good, but Silat, like Wing Chun, for example, works best when there's a sudden wild attack that comes in fully committed, and you go bang, 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 and you take them down, right? Or you go da 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 da, and you take them down. But if you have somebody out there a little more cautious, or you end up in the clinch, and your initial attack doesn't work, and you're in the clinch with somebody.
Okay.
Well, you need some more skills there. But
Right.
once you get those skills, man, Silat works amazing in the clinch.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's the basic idea.
Yeah, because what I wanted you to describe is why they are separate courses. Because somebody would say, well, if it's all for the street, isn't it all the same thing?
Yeah, good point.
You see?
So we take people that are very Silat oriented and go, okay, let's just functionalize your Silat. Let's make it actually work against an MMA guy, right? Like, does your Silat work against a guy that's had too much to drink and is swinging on you? Probably. Does it work against a skillful MMA fighter? Actually, probably not. And you can just go test it yourself. It's going to be hard. But so I want to make sure those people can operate in there. But that's for those people. And it's so broad, right? So MMA for the street covers everything. Kickboxing, clinch, ground scenario. BJJ, like, let's take a look at all the things that can happen when you're on the ground and in the clinch too, but mainly on the ground. When now a weapon comes out. And BJJ is so wide. It's very broad. There's, you have to deal with guard, half guard, side control, knee on the stomach, mount, north, south, back, turtle position from the top. And then those same things from the bottom, which is a totally different area you're working, plus all the transitions between everything. That's a lot. What happens when you add a knife in there?
Right.
It's not regular BJJ. You just add punching, it has to change. So that's why I separated, because some people are like, I don't want to do Silat, right? I think you asked Matt Thornton about Silat, right? Matt hates Silat. He can't stand it. And you know what? I'm going to defend him. He had an experience where this really, quote, good Silat guy, they got into some sort of thing. And so Matt's like, well, let's try. And the guy is really high level, young guy too. And Matt took him down, mounted him, armbarred him. And he did it again. The guy said, well, I'm going to come back in a week. And if you can do that again, I'm going to quit Silat. So he comes back a week or a month or whatever it was. And Matt took him down, mounted him, armbarred him again. Right. Of course, he didn't quit Silat. So the point being that that's why he doesn't like it. But he's overlooking some things where, man, there is so much. And the old Silat looked like MMA.
Yes.
I mean, it really did. If you look at, there's a video out now of Burmese, it's the Silat. They're playing the music and they're going like this, right? And then they fight and they're kickboxing, they're clinching, throws, they're on the ground grappling. It's only like maybe a minute or so of it. But you see, it's the whole complete thing. That's what Silat in the Southeast Asian arts used to look like.
Yeah. So in that story, like, to me, that's a Jeet Kune Do story, because I was talking about this on Wednesday's broadcast. Bruce Lee said, approximate the reality of the situation. Today's reality is that you are probably going to come up against somebody who thinks he's a BJJ black belt, right? Or thinks he's an MMA fighter and is probably going to try to take you down. So in your Silat, you have not prepared for the reality of that possibility, you're going to find yourself in trouble.
You hit it on the head. It's what's the environment we're training for now. And it's changed. My police officer friends over here, one of the guys that was the head trainer for the Honolulu Police Department, he was telling me one day that it used to be that if a guy was going to try to resist arrest, they might throw a punch or two and run away and this and that. He goes, now they're shooting for takedowns and they're trying to take the officer down, get to the back and choke. I mean, it's not, because in a lot of areas in the world, if two people fight, they just go, rah, and they swing.
Right.
But in our culture, because boxing is so prevalent, people do this and they put their hands up. It looks like boxing. But now it's boxing plus the takedowns and everything. So if you're not prepared for that, it's just going to overwhelm you. I mean, your technique's just not going to handle it. And I have a lot of people that dispute me on that. And I just simply say, be a scientist. go to an MMA gym
Right.
and try it out. If you don't
Yeah.
believe it, go, and there are all kinds of amateur guys that don't even fight. Just go try it out with them, you know? And
Mhm.
what's often I hear is, well, you know, I would use my finger jabs and this and that. But do you watch people practice? What are they doing? I parry and I punch here, and he blocks that, then I punch on the other side, then I trap and I hit, then I hit him, then I elbow. Well, you can do all of that in MMA. So why don't you just go try, find out?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, to me, the science comes first. Just go give
You
it a
know,
go. And that's, again, all this stuff we're talking about is because of the JKD influence that just permeates
of course.
everything we do.
Of course. Yeah. There are two pieces of advice that I mean, you didn't give them to me directly. I heard you saying them and I was like, that is so smart. One is always expect them to rush you. That was the first one. And then the other one, I couldn't believe it when I first came across it. In the middle of focus mitt drilling, make them miss the target and have to recover.
Yeah, exactly.
And I go, God damn, I never thought of that.
But you know, that's just from the experience, right?
Right.
I was sparring one of my students one day, way back when in Long Beach. So this is probably, I don't know, 1991 or 92, stick sparring, and he didn't have much experience. He was a fighter, but he didn't have much stick sparring. So we start, and right, we're at a good distance, nice distance out there, and he just went, blah, and he just came charging, and it surprised me. And that's why I'm like, oh, I have to always expect them to rush.
Right.
That has to be front of mind. It can't be a surprise. Yeah. And the other thing is just from, hey, guess what? We miss sometimes. Let's practice that too.
Yeah.
You know who does that is Greg Nelson. Greg Nelson emphasizes that too on the mitts. Is he'll make a miss and he'll shoot for a takedown.
Right.
So yeah, that's
yeah,
it's good stuff.
Brilliant.
Good stuff. Yeah.
You know,
but again, it's all through JKD and experience.
Oh, and I have to tell you this too, right? So every time you post about your Skype lesson with Dean Franco,
yes,
I always get something out of it for myself.
Oh, good. Oh,
every
good.
time, right?
Really?
Yes. So I'll give you an example, because I mean, you spend more time, you know, with you're better known as a functionality expert than I would ever be known as, right? I'm known. I think I'm better known as a recreational Jeet Kune Do instructor. You know,
I don't know about that.
Right?
You're one of the best.
But so when you're, what is it that you call it in Illustrissimo, the floating leg thing?
Yeah, there's the floating foot, or it's called lutang.
Yeah. So I took that and used it two ways. One way is with a private client. So I have a private client who's been with me chronologically over 20 years. She's 45. She started with me when she was 21.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
Amazing.
And so she trains with me privately in her backyard for mostly kickboxing. But one day I changed up stuff and I introduced her to Kali, and she fell in love with it.
Good for you.
Right?
Good for her.
The emphasis in her private lesson is on cardiovascular enhancement. I took that what I call lateral triangle, which I think is somewhat related to what you're talking about.
Very much so.
And we put that into 3-count sombrada.
Oh.
So it's like step forward and attack, defend, step forward and hit, retreat and defend, step forward. And we just went back and forth like that. In 60 seconds, you're huffing and puffing.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. You know, with Edgar Sulite, I got to train with him in his backyard and all, and he'd have us just go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? The redondo 6 count. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And the first drill, which is start here, you step forward with your right foot, you go 1, 2, 3. You step back with your right foot, 1, 2, 3. Forward, back. You can do this without moving for a while. You just step forward and back, and man, the cardio.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Well, see,
Unbelievable.
so this is the
That's
thing.
really cool what you did with your student, by the way. That's
Yeah.
awesome. What a
Right.
good
But
way you
then
integrated.
when I go teach the martial art class, we do the same thing, but the intention now is completely different. It's not merely for cardiovascular enhancement. We're judging distance and timing. What I'm trying to do is, like, I hear you guys talking, like you and Matt Thornton talking aliveness, aliveness, aliveness. And I see a lot of people out there and they're just doing patterns. They're
Yes.
not, they're, and there's the famous Bruce Lee saying, all fixed patterns are incapable of pliability and adaptability.
That's
The
right.
truth is outside of fixed patterns. So why are there so many people in JKD that are still doing the fixed pattern instead of using the pattern for something?
It's incredible. I mean, I can't give you an answer. I don't know why. It's the same as, I remember a JKD instructor, and not a well-known person, but indicative of a lot of people that teach, is like, okay, in JKD, we never hold the arm out, right? We never hold the arm out. That's, Bruce Lee, that's like being a statue and it's dead and all that sort of thing. And there was a whole lecture on that. And it's like, okay, let's get the stick. Okay, here you go. Now you're going to do this and this and this and this. And like, you're holding the stick out there. You're holding your arm out, right? So, yeah, it's interesting, the disconnect.
I think that that one of the things that's missing is the idea, like Salem calls it Jeet Kune Do's associated disciplines. And then you are a perfect example of using JKD in the CLAT, using JKD in so you're using CLAT and BJJ and everything else with a Jeet Kune Do template.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. When my BJJ for the street video series just came out through the BJJ Fanatics group, and I'm not the type to plug stuff, right? But I'm gonna plug this because it's only $47, and they always have discounts, so you can get it for under $40, 4 DVDs and all that. But the reason I would like, man, if you have any inkling whatsoever of wanting some ground fighting, doesn't have to be jujitsu, but that incorporates gun and knife, please get this, because I just want people to be prepared. Because to me, the JKD, at Taki Kimura's 95th birthday celebration and conference last year, when I was teaching, we had this whole discussion after one of the teaching sessions with all the students there. And it's like, why is JKD tending to go down? It's not going. And my feeling is that, when we were training at the academy and all, it was a fighting art. We were going in to fight. It was basically, it felt and looked like a boxing gym, but you were doing JKD and kicking and all. It was a fighter's gym. You were there to learn how to fight better. And of course, that spiritual, mental, emotional portion was already being, put in as well. But we were there to fight. And then it has turned into, I'm not saying everybody, not everybody, but for the most part, it's become drills and this technique. And, oh, look how cool this technique is. Nobody else has that. You know why nobody else has that? Because it doesn't actually work in fighting, because everybody would have it if it did. But there's a lot of that happening. And so my main point is, hey, if you're a teacher, one of your students is going to get into a real situation someday, and maybe more, depending. If you train police officers and such, they're going to get in a real situation. And I feel my responsibility is to prepare my students primarily to fight. I got to learn how to fight against someone who's really fighting against them. Then those people that get good, they can expand to the other portions, because guess what? Now they can apply them. You can apply all kinds of trapping. Like you, Dwight, you can apply all kinds of trapping because your kickboxing is so good. Your Jun Fan kickboxing, your Savat, your Muay Thai, you're so good at it. You understand the timing and the distance and reading the opponent, so you can apply it. But somebody that doesn't have that ability, that skill that you've developed, they're going to have a hard time. If they think they're just going to go in and trap somebody and all, it's like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. the what was I going to tell you? I was going to tell you something.
No, it's okay.
It was,
But could I ask? Okay, my
yeah,
main point on everything is make sure students know how to fight. I mean,
right,
really know how to fight. And I think that's going to bring JKD back up too.
yeah.
When
I,
people go,
I,
"Oh, that's a
I
fighting thing."
I don't understand. Like, so, like I said to Matt, I asked him if he remembered in JKD the training maxim that went something like learn the technique, practice the technique, add the counter, add the recounter.
Yeah,
Because
right.
again, like I was saying, like, you know, you hear about aliveness and resistance and pressure and what have you.
Yeah, right.
I find that training maxim, especially add the counter, add the recounter,
Right.
that to me is aliveness, resistance, and pressure.
Yeah, that all comes from that. That's why it's there, is because Bruce Lee sparred a lot and he sparred very hard with helmets and all the gear. So that's how you have to do it. Unless you're just going to go clash, clash, clash. But if you go in
Right.
boom and then you add the counter and then the counter to the counter, so you're aware of that. Now that's fighting and that's JKD. But as soon
Yeah.
as you take out all the sparring, guess what? Nobody understands what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
You know, because that's a fighter's talk. That's a fighter talking right there.
Well, you see,
Um,
I think that one of the problems, Bert, and this is in my own research, is that when people think sparring, they think of what I call from the old days of karate in Barbados, free sparring. Because in the old days,
uh,
you know, everybody warmed up together, then you would split off, and the white belts would practice their white belt stuff. The yellow belts would
mhm.
be in another part of the room, and then you would come back together towards the end of class, and you would fight.
Yep, there you
And
go.
nobody ever taught you how to fight. You
Yeah,
see?
that's
Yeah,
where JKD is good because it's supposed to everything
right,
is teaching you how to actually fight, right?
right. So I think that a lot of people think, okay, sparring is this thing that is removed, is just this coming together, and they don't learn how to do it. So when they do the focus mitt stuff, they don't do it like if it's fighting.
Right. And that's the problem. Yeah, it's like I'm going to do, a 75 count thing and to memorize 25 different techniques or combinations in there, but
Right.
that's not fighting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you rarely see people with the mitts really throwing back at the person,
Right.
trying to tackle them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but
I took Ajahn Chai's. I realized over the years with him that he had. You remember when he would feed the whole seminar, the
oh
focus
yeah,
mitts, right?
yes, I remember.
So I broke that down, and I realized that essentially it's a 26 count movement. If you put them all together, what I saw him doing. So I created that just so people would become familiar with what he was doing.
It's like a
Right?
document to
Yes.
make sure you know all the techniques.
Yes.
But if that's all you do,
Right.
Then there's a problem. But
And then
it's just like some of the dances that were made to remember stories, like in Hawaii, hula. It's precise hand movement, all that's passed down very precisely to remember all the moves or all the stories. But
yeah, and then we took it and we chopped that pattern down.
yeah, exactly. Right. You go,
see?
okay, now we're going to do these three, and we're going to do that two and that five. It's
and then you functionalize the heck out of it.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. That's beautiful.
Right. And then again, because I have clients who are interested in kicking and punching as their cardio, because
that's a
hey,
different
I live in
clientele.
Miami. I got beautiful people as clients. They want to right.
Right, for sure.
I take that same 26 count drill, and I have about 30 variations for the fitness kickboxing clients.
See, that's functional because for them, that's a brilliant way to keep it interesting, and you have all these things. So, see, when we talk about functional, it's like that's why I emphasize functional fighting because if we go, okay, let's train someone for cardio. Okay, it has to be a different thing. What if we want to train somebody for a movie? I trained Keanu Reeves years ago for the movie Speed. right? I didn't say, okay, here, put on the gloves, let's fight.
Right.
That's not going to help him in the movie, right? You
No.
actually train him for the movie itself, right? So it depends, you know, what's functional for the goal. And if the goal is to develop functional fighters,
Mhm.
well, there's a certain way to do it. It's to develop their cardio and keep them interested, because if they're not interested, you're going to lose them and you're not helping them with their cardio.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I didn't know that you trained Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, he took some lessons before he come to the Inasano Academy and on off
No, I
hours.
didn't.
And
Oh,
yeah,
well, geez. Okay, so you could put that on your resume,
I know. I never took a photo with him. I mean,
Right.
that was so
So
bad.
because the reason that reminded, because here's what I just found out. Apparently, when he was about 12 years old, Jorge Masvidal trained with me.
What?
Yes.
Really?
Apparently.
No kidding. Really?
That's
Wow,
what
that's awesome.
I came across an old student who is still a friend of his, and that's what he told me. I don't have any records of it or anything, right?
Oh,
But
that's great.
if I ever find out it's true, you could bet that's going in my resume.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm bad at the resume stuff. Oh man.
Right?
Hey, I assume we're almost running out of time here, but I had another question for you.
Okay.
So here you are. It's it's almost 2020, right? If we can imagine that, almost the year 2020. What do you see yourself doing in 2040? Yeah, sorry about that, but
Wait, because now I got to do the math, right? I got to do the math and lie about how old I'll be.
Correct. Okay, okay. You passed the first part of the test.
Right. So my answer comes from the answer that I was given by the gentleman to whom you and I owe so much.
Yes.
He said to
role
me,
model.
He said to me, exactly what I'm doing now, Dwight.
That's it.
That's what
there
he said.
Go. That's the most profound and
That's
the best answer.
That's what he said. I mean, and I remember in the early days, I would hear him answer the same question the same way, but it's asked by different people. And to be honest, I thought to myself, well, that's not very creative. Why does he have the... Years later, I go, Dwight, you idiot. It's the best answer.
It's the best.
That's why he gives it all the
time. Oh, that's funny.
Right?
That is funny.
Yeah, so yeah. All right. So listen, I did have more stuff for you, but and I should have asked you, how's the family? Is everybody's doing well?
Great. I'm telling you, great. And hey, if any of you out there suffer from depression at all, I did when I was many years ago, when I was living in that little camper trailer in a dog and cat hospital parking lot in downtown LA, and just training is what saved me. It just kept me going, training all the time with Guru Dan. I'm just going to say that my wife Sarah has a blog, sarah.richardson.com, I believe. And if you want, go and read some of her articles, especially the more recent ones, because she's been dealing with it for a long time and didn't really know it. She was just fighting it for so long. Mm-hmm. And she finally did a change as far as this is stuff you're not supposed to talk about, but we got to be fighters. We have to be stronger than people and not care. She started taking a medication, Zoloft, which is commonly prescribed. 13 million people take it and all. But she finally, after all these years of taking it, and you probably couldn't tell she was depressed because she was so alive and so productive and amazing training. Anyway, it's changed her whole life. She's actually happy from the inside because she just had a serotonin imbalance, just some sort of little chemical imbalance. So anyway, man, if you want to change your life, any of those, because a lot of people in martial arts, they go in because there's a depression and maybe martial arts helps them. But I just you don't have to go on medicine if you don't need it, but you might want to look at some of her writing because it's really profound. She writes so well. It's her fifth English is her fifth language, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
how's
that.
that, right?
Right.
And she writes so eloquently.
Yeah.
But I just want to throw that out there because it can be so
Well,
helpful.
yeah. So, so let's make sure people understand that Sifu Bert is recommending the reading of Sarah's blog, not the taking
Yes,
of the medicine.
correct. I want you to go read her blog and see if that helps you, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a real good testament of how she just kept fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting and finally found something that's really, really helped her to feel better from the inside out.
Yeah. All right. Let me can I ask you two things then, and we'll close
Sure.
out. All right.
So the family's
So
great. Family's great.
good. So you mentioned it briefly, but what is your take on the death and or the disappearance of Jeet Kune Do?
Yeah.
I don't see it. What is your take?
Well, see, because of all my time in MMA gyms and such, with from top professional athletes to common amateurs or not even fighters, just hobbyists, is when most people see something from JKD, they see something on YouTube and all. Generally, it's compound trapping because, like, hey, that's what we have. Because if they just show the kickboxing, it doesn't look that different.
Mm-hmm.
When they see that, they're like, oh, come on, right? It just doesn't look real.
Mm-hmm.
And the way people are doing it, not so real. And my personal point of view is if everybody has the fighting aspect like we went through and is actually trained to fight, at least the instructors. I mean, I personally, like our instructor test, this is a bunch of rounds of fighting because they should show. I actually got it from a guy, Christopher Ricketts in the Philippines, one of Tatang Illustrissimo's top guys.
Yeah.
Ricketts, he would say, hey, when it's time for someone to get their black belt in bakbakan, his thing, he says, I know they know all the techniques. I want to see if they know how to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And really, in the end, that's JKD was all about fighting. And when you do that, you also understand the philosophy better because you understand everything Bruce Lee's talking about. So that's what I think. I know a lot of people say, "Oh no, it's alive and well," but boy, it could be so much bigger. I mean, that's what I believe.
Yeah. Well, when I was talking to Joe Harrison
Yes,
last week,
right.
right? And we
That
and
he's actually the one that asked me at the seminar about. He's the one that posed the question about JKD going
right.
down, and that was my response to him.
Yeah. So I told him that as long as he, you, and I are out there, it won't die. It won't disappear.
Yeah. Right.
But one day we'll crack the code on exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah.
To put it out. Okay. So do you remember Olivia Newton-John?
Oh yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. So to paraphrase her hit song, let's finish with this. Why are you hopelessly devoted to Dan Inosanto?
That's funny. That's a great lead-in. And it's amazing that I get people criticize me for being devoted to Dan Inosanto. Like, it just shows you people will criticize you about anything, right? The reason I'm hopelessly and thankfully devoted to him is because one, when I was this young guy who was depressed and actually thankfully recently I got to see some videos. Somebody sent me videos they took at the academy back in 86 or so, and I'm demonstrating with Guru Dan. But I look at it and I see a totally different guy because I can see I'm like this. You can see the depression, you can see the heavy whatever I'm carrying there. But he was so generous, he's so kind. He just constantly bringing me up. So here's a place like you're saying, he doesn't like to, criticize what you're doing, and he lets you do what you want. Here's a guy that never did I have to feel like I had to prove something to him, even though I felt like I wanted to inside. I wanted to do my best for him.
Right.
But he was only there to help you, right? Just to encourage you, just the encouragement. That's what I tell my instructors, and always, we're here to encourage people because life takes courage. And if you get discouraged and you lose your courage, it's hard to live. If you get encouraged, you have more courage, you can live better. And that's what Guru Dan did. Not to mention all the overtly generous things he did, and the giving the art and supplying. I mean, to this day, every couple weeks, I send him a text thanking him for all he's done to me, right? And because it's true. I mean, he didn't have to do that. He could have been a jerk about it, which he has never, ever, ever, ever been. He's just so generous in his help. So, yeah.
All right. Do you have one last one for me, or are you out of questions?
No. Okay. So on the 20-year thing, that was a beautiful, beautiful response there. Do you have any art that you want to train that you've never trained before that you'd like to go and pick up in those next 20 years? Because in 20 years you can be 10 years you can be an expert in anything. Is there any particular art that you like, I'll spend 10 years?
I'm going to tell you something, right? I understand 100% why people who get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fall in love with it.
Yeah.
I've never trained it extensively. Like, I mean, we tried on different occasions with at least 4 to 5 different establishments here in Miami. And for what it never, I mean, I even had it set up perfectly. There were some JKD oriented guys who were black belts in jiu-jitsu, and they were going to start at my school teaching the class, and I was going to study under them, and then it all fell out. But I understand it perfectly because I can feel it. Yeah. When I hear Joe Rogan talk about it, when I watch you and Stefan Kesting, right? When I watch it, I'm like, oh, this is some fascinating stuff.
It is.
So if that ever happens, right? If that I think is the art that I would definitely put some time into.
Oh, I would highly recommend it because you will love it. And the longer you do it, I was just talking to one of my students, Clayton, here today, that took a lesson a while ago. And, he's now a brown belt. He's in his 60s, great shape. The longer you do it, the more fun it becomes. The chess game opens and opens and opens. There are more pieces. And it's just, it's like amazing.
But it's like I told like I tell my students all the time, right? So I heard Joe Rogan say this, and I think he said it was Helson Gracie who told him, who gave him the best description of BJJ, right? And it was, if you do this, I do this. If you do that, I do that. And I heard that and I go, Joe, that's sombrada.
That's really non-cooperative sombrada. It's really true. I'll tell you, when you're first learning, this was my assessment of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is the instructor tells you about this technique, you can do this technique. Then you try it on the instructor in sparring, it doesn't work at all. But yet the instructor does it to you at will.
Yeah.
What's that all about? So it's a great journey. You just have to find the right instructor who's not going to injure your body, that does it in a good way. So, but it's really fascinating. And if I can add the For the Street stuff in, it makes it even more fun, especially for us who like JKD.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to put the links for it. You said it's BJJ Fanatics, right? That's your new stuff, right? Okay. All right. So when I do all the post editing stuff, I'll put that in there, and I'll go get it myself.
Great. Well,
all right.
If I could send you one, I would. I just don't have it. It's there.
That's okay. That's not a problem. Not a problem at all. Hey, so listen, man, thanks for celebrating episode 100 with me. I appreciate it.
Congratulations. You're awesome. You're doing so much good for JKD. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, man. All right. We'll talk again soon.
Okay.
And I still got questions left.
I'm good.
All right. Okay. Have a good one.
Aloha.
Take care.
Thanks.
That was episode number 100 of the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues with my very good friend, Burton Richardson. That's it for today. Feel free to share, like, and comment. Ask me questions if you want. and we'll try to review everything after posting. Sign up for notifications for when we go live here on Facebook for as long as this continues, because there's rumors that the entire platform, the entire portal will be changing. But for now, sign up for notifications for when we go live, and also sign up over on the YouTube for the Jeet Kune Do dialogues, the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcasts, and the FMA files. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods, and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods. Coming up next Friday, November 29th, episode 101 with Sifu Patrick Marcil of Kung Fu Patinode. That will be next Friday. I'm pretty sure it'll be at 6 p.m. Usual time. And did I tell you about Twitter? I did, right? Okay. So I'll see you, some of you on Wednesday for the next I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast, and the rest of you back here next Friday for another episode of the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. Have a great weekend. Some of you I'll see before Thanksgiving. If I don't, have a great Thanksgiving if you're here in the U.S., and we'll catch up another time. Take care. And when Mr. Richardson gets here, we will rock and roll, as they say. I'm gonna be clicking back and forth between screens a little bit, not too much. Once he gets here, I'll quit that. But before that, I'll just go back and forth and see what's going on between what I see on the screen and what's happening on my Facebook screen. All right, so let me fill time. Next Friday, we'll be on with Sifu Patrick Marcil, and some of you might be familiar with him. He is out of, I'm pretty sure he's out of Ontario, Canada. And he's best known, I guess now. In the old days, he was really well known as a JKD guy, and he's still a JKD guy. But I think right now he's best known as the coach for Dave Leduc of Letway fame. So he'll be on next Friday, 6 p.m. regular time, and he'll tell us all about how he's been using JKD principles and JKD concepts in training all of his fighters. Okay, so yeah, we're at the top of the hour, so I expect Mr. Richardson to join me in any second now. All right, hang on one sec. Okay, that's him on the phone. Like I said, it's a little bit of a different setup here. Wait, hold on. I hear you, but I don't see you. Okay. Interesting. Is your camera on? Really? Okay. So we're supposed to see each other side by side. So right, yeah. That's are you logged in, and you're logged into Facebook as well, right? Then why? Hang on. Hold on a second. I got it.